Is there a motion to open court?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Available, please open court.
Please rise. Dallas County Commissioners Court is now in session for the November 2011 term with the Honorable Clay Lewis Jenkins presiding. Please remain standing for the invocation.
And our invocation today will be given by a guest of Commissioner Dickey.
Thank you, Judge. And our indicator today will be Dr. Blair Money, and he is a pastor of Preston Hall Presbyterian Church. Dr. Money has served as pastor and head of staff of Preston Hall Presbyterian since January of '95. He has been involved in theological education since his ordination in '73. For 9 years, he served as a supervisor in the Princeton Theological Seminary's Teaching Church program, where he worked with 2 seminarians each year. Dr. Money serves on the Board of Trustees of Austin Presbyterian Theological Seminary in Austin and has served as a member of the General Assembly Council of the Presbyterian Church USA, chairing the Congregational Ministries Division. He also chaired the Ecclesiology Committee of the 217th General Assembly in 2006, with major responsibility for the report of the Special Task Force on the Peace, Unity, and Purity of the Church. Dr. Money is married to the former Cindy Bounds of York, Pennsylvania. They have 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren. Thank you, Dr. Money, for coming today.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the invitation to pray for this august body, commissioners and Judge Jenkins. I can assure you on behalf of the faith community that you have many more prayers than mine every day of the week. So let us pray. Our Maker and our God, because we can learn to pray only by praying, we dare to bring you our prayers unfinished as they are. We give you unbounded thanks for forces of work around us and within us, which keep us from resigning ourselves to that which ought to be resisted. For the unrest of the young and their vision of a world unblighted by war and exploitation. For city planners and their dreams for a metropolis void of ghettos and adorned with beauty. For conservationists who quicken our imagination with pictures of a world in which the gentle balances of nature are preserved, wherein the air is clean and the water unpolluted. For voices lonely and prophetic that call us to a new earth, a new humanity, and a just society. We thank you for friends who take us as we are and gently urge us on to better things, and for your Spirit who helps us to see the interim character of the little systems in which we take such pride. Out of your infinite love, O God, minister to us in our many needs. Give us mastery over moodiness and petulance, the ability to smile even on the worst of days, the stamina to persevere when the prize eludes our grasp, the wisdom to find fair answers to problems which too often divide people of good intent, the faith to believe that a grand design exists even when we cannot see it, the grace to acknowledge error, and the humility to accept forgiveness, and all to your eternal praise. Bless this gathering of those called to serve through leadership. Guide each one into your gracious wisdom, for we pray it in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome to this meeting of the Commissioners Court. Today we'll be considering items on our official agenda for recess for our formal work session. I believe we have registered speakers today. We have 3 registered speakers today, and then we'll convene a work session to consider items that are allowed by law. You guys may notice that I've got the ceremonial gavel today. Someone has provided the official gavel. So if anybody sees anyone walking around with a gavel, please tap it. All right, we have 3 resolutions today. The first is from Commissioner Reed.
Thank you, Judge. And I'd like to ask Gary and Lois Billingsley and members of the Duncanville Church of Christ to please come forward. I would like to read this resolution, and then I'll ask you all to introduce the members of the church and for a few words for you. And then I know that you all would like to have a picture with the court, so afterwards I'll ask you to come here and stand behind us, and we'll all kind of scooch together and take a picture. Sure. Thank you. I will read the resolution. Whereas the Duncanville Church of Christ has been an active partner and supporter of the PDI, that's the Prostitute Diversion Initiative, New Life Project from its inception, Gary and Lois Billingsley, leaders of the church, created an Adopt a Woman program for their Sunday school classes, which asks its members to pledge $10 a month to help support the women of PDI New Life. And the church has faithfully given donations greater than $1,000 per month, and never less than $500 per month since the beginning of 2008. And whereas the faithful commitment of the Duncanville Church of Christ members to this pledge has given the PDI New Life Project unrestricted funds to purchase housing, toiletries, clothes, birth certificate, IDs, and other various needs of the women in PDI New Life. And whereas the church members, Mary Nolte and Lois Billingsley, envisioned, inspired, and implemented the mentoring program for PDI New Life. Their testimony of faith led them to recruit other volunteer mentors to spend one-on-one time with the women, role modeling, healthy communication, trust, empowerment, and demonstrating the endless possibilities of faith. And whereas the Duncanville Church of Christ opened its doors and its hearts to the women at every holiday with warmth, regard, and compassion, and graciously provided transportation to and from services anytime the women desired to attend. Now therefore be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby recognize and commend the Duncanville Church of Christ for its selflessness and humility with which they serve. The least of these, and that is who they serve, the least of these. And that service has endeared this church and its members to PDI New Life as a true example of a living Word of God. And I so move.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you very much.
Resolution 13.
Thank you, Judge. And I would ask Lois and Gary if you would introduce people and say a few words, and then if all of you would come up here for a picture.
First of all, our leader, I'd like to recognize him first of all, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, because He is the one that we're serving. But my wife Lois, Pat Barham, Mary Nolte, who Lois and Mary went out on the first initiative one Wednesday evening. And then Ann and Kurt Fullerton. Kurt is one of our elders. And then Roxanne Lowe, and our minister, Ron Carlson. And are there any others here? I know that there's some others that said they couldn't be able to be here, but I don't see them. But thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming, and if you would come up here, we'll just kind of scoot together and get a picture. Why don't you come up the steps to the podium right here. You all can just stand behind me for a second.
Vicki.
You know, yesterday we had a press conference.
Before we go there, Ms. Vicki, since you talked about PDI, the purposes of the website, we'll talk a little bit about it. Since you brought up the prosecution's diversion issue. You kept saying PDI, I don't know if people in the audience on the web understood what PDI is.
You're very kind. You have opportunity. PDI is the Prostitute Diversion Initiative. And it's an initiative that's different from other prostitute diversion programs because it goes out into the community and the first Wednesday night of every month. And it's mostly based around truck stops because that's a big draw for prostitutes. And because we do have so much trucking here in Dallas, we draw a lot of prostitutes here. So we help them. We go out there, we're there, the advice police pick them up. They're there, but also many of them self-refer and they actually come to our initiative and ask, and they try to make a new life for themselves. And we have the Dallas County Health Department, we've got the magistrates there on site, we've got social workers and people to help them to get housing and find a way to be clean. Many of them are on drugs and have mental illnesses. And they have an opportunity. They wouldn't know who to call if they were on their own. But this way they have a one-stop opportunity every month to do that. Thank you, Commissioner Cox.
Commissioner Vicki, I know your heart is doing this program, and you've gone out there and volunteered. Every time you do work here in the Commissioner's Court.
Well, what she has not stated is that this particular initiative, I've been out there to 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, this particular initiative is being implemented internationally. She's hosted a conference here with regards to Sergeant B and his wife, Dr. who basically will really become an initiative. They've had a conference here with regards to this whole initiative, and it's being emulated around the country. So Dallas is kind of in the forefront of this whole issue of diversion. I think that's the key word, not to take and to lock people up, people who have, as you said, everything from mental challenges, substance abuse challenges on back. They're being diverted. So,
And that's really thanks to Commissioner Price that I got really interested in this because Commissioner Price has been a champion for the jail. And I saw through him that people would come into the jail, prostitutes, just to have a revolving door and then just come right back the next day. And obviously these women weren't receiving any treatment. It was costing Dallas County a lot of money. And so we realized that we needed to intervene in some place. So thank you for bringing that. Thank you for all your work, Mr.
We talk about diversion, but what this is really about is redemption. You're looking at 6 years where the crime rate's gone down. You're looking at a jail population that's gone from 9,000 to, I think today, around 6,300. The crime rate's going down, and there's less people in jail because lives are being redeemed. People are getting out of that cycle of criminality, and that's happening because of partnerships, not just between the DA and the judges and the Commissioner's Court and all of the clerks and all the various people in government. It's happening because private sector folks, like these folks, faith-based folks, are joining those partnerships and really helping us take a smarter, more holistic approach to redeeming people and getting them out of crime. So if you're still here, special kudos to you and to everyone. I think one of our next resolutions is for CASA, which is another incredibly important group in making sure that we have a less mean, more open, more loving society. That's your resolution. We got DWI. Yeah, we have a DWI initiative, and I'm glad to hear we have that because I saw the officer back there, and I thought, hey, that wasn't me, that was the car next to me.
Well, and thank you, Judge. Judge, colleagues, members of the audience, it's for me a great honor to present today a resolution for the DWI Task Force. I know that there are several members of the 46 organizations that are members of the task force. Could you please come to the microphone as I start reading the resolution? I really thank you all for being here today. With the holiday season approaching, we all know that there's usually an increase in accidents, injuries, and deaths from DWI. I'm going to read the resolution why this is important, colleagues, for all of us, because this is when, like the judge just mentioned, it's time to prevent, it's time to educate, it's time to legislate. So the resolution reads as follows. Whereas the DWI Task Force was established by Commissioner's Court in May of 1984 during Commissioner Chris Simmons' term in office. This task force consists of various governmental and community agencies, schools, and civil organizations concerned with DWI problems. And whereas it focuses primarily on public education and legislation, asking for support from state legislatures in helping us to pass better laws for enforcement and prosecution of DWI violators, and works together to be an active group advocating for responsible laws and actions dealing with underage drinking as well as drinking and driving. And whereas the task force developed a book coverage drawing contest and essay campaign for participations by students in all Dallas County independent school districts and charter schools, Keys to a Safe Start. And it was made possible in part by the grant from the Texas Department of Transportation. The contest's purpose was to help reduce underage drinking as well as drinking and driving through our motivational book covers designed by students and contests. And whereas the first year of the book cover contest focused on grades 9 to 12, awarding 3 scholarships totaling $3,000. The second year focused on 7 to 12 grades, awarding scholarships in a total amount of $3,500. And the third year focused on grades 5 to 8, awarding winners with a series of saving bonds for at least $1,000 at high school graduation. And whereas on January 1st, 2011, Commissioner Alba Garcia became the chair of this task force, and under and with the leadership of the task force, will unveil its first DWI Task Force website, which is on the dwitaskforce.org, and we will see shortly, Josh, a small sample of the website and a video. And on November 22nd, we'll invite all citizens in Dallas County to visit the website, give us your comment, and ask us to Facebook, Twitter, or whatever you want to give us advice on, as well as giving us your DWI stories or join the task force as we work together on DWI issues for Dallas County. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Dallas County Commissioner's Court officially recognizes the history of this task force and its continuous work to educate and work with citizens of Dallas County on DWI issues, now and in the future, and commends its efforts to make our county a safer county for all residents. Thank you all for being here. I'm so moved. I always get excited. So moved.
As long as all those in favor. As long as you're on Twitter and Facebook while driving.
That's correct. I have my experience on that too. But with that being said, I'm very honored to have you all here. I know that the work that you've been doing for many, many years has a long way to go. But as you can see, Judge, we have members of every single organization. And let me just mention a few of them. If you want to go ahead and whoever is going to represent the group, make a few comments.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Judge Vic Cunningham, a senior district judge here in Dallas, and with recovery health care, providing treatment, education, and preventive measures to slow down and improve our recidivism rate for DWI.
And can you introduce all the members on the different?
All the members of
They can come to the mic and introduce themselves.
I'm not going to deal with recovery health care.
I thought you were court coordinator.
I'm Joyce Strickland with Mothers Against Teen Violence. Lisa Bardwell with Recovery Healthcare.
My name is Deidre Gray with the City of Grand Prairie Impact Coalition.
I'm Deborah Jaffe with Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Courtney Edwards, the Trauma Center at Parkland Hospital.
Cindy Stanley with the Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse and Drug Prevention Resource Team.
We have law enforcement, sheriff.
Yes. We have over 23 different police departments in our task force.
And Steve Jones, Staff Sheriff.
Officer Stephen Burris, along with Sergeant Jeff Mitchell with the Urban Police Department, DWI.
Sergeant Eric Hansen with the Grand Prairie Police Department.
Police Chief Michael Sellers with the City of Copperhill. It's a pleasure to meet you. Trooper Doug Gillum, Texas Highway Patrol, representing the safety education officers.
Mr. Kyle Bowles from the Gwinnett Police Department.
Yeah, Judge, to Dr. Garcia talked about, I guess you don't run the video, but let me just say to her, she's always wanting to comment about what other committees are doing. Let me just thank you for taking this to another level. Let me just tell you, in the last several months, this committee's basically been doing better than mothers and drug drivers and others who've been out there doing what they do. This whole collaborative, keeping them together and placing on that issue has been because of the leadership that you have brought back to this DWI task force. So I just want to thank you for this, taking it to another level.
Thank you, Commissioner Price. And that's exactly what the task force wanted. We wanted to create a buzz about DWI, especially when we're about to see some of those increased accidents and we're doing it during the holiday season. And it couldn't happen without all of them working together. So my Deputy Chief of Staff, Ms. Sanchez, is going to run for you the new design of the website and a video that we will present during our press conference on November 22nd in our test. Thank you all. And interactive website, so please don't forget to check dwitaskforce.org. Put your comments, tell us what you're thinking, tell us how you can help us. And if it's okay, Judge, can they come forward and have a picture with all of us today?
Heck yeah, come on forward. And do we have some, I recognize some of your officers here. Y'all not MAD award winners, a couple of MAD award winners out there?
Yes.
The MAD award winners are the officers who, in our area, in North Texas, are the most effective at making DWI arrests. Here in North Texas, I recognize at least one of you from Irving. Appreciate y'all.
Well, Judge, while they're coming, Judge Rick Cunningham, Senior District Judge, are there any other judges in the House? Because I really want to thank those judges who continue to use that program. We talked about it, we just talked about it in kind of brazen terms. But this is the alternative that they place on the automobiles for breathalyzers that you can't drive the car if in fact you are inebriated, etc. So that we utilize that system quite a bit here in Dallas County. And I just want to thank he and his.
We know it's working.
No, I've got a system upgrade from CASA.
All right. Good.
2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can have Jim Jackson, everybody that's with him, come forward, please. And also Paul Sugg with Texas Association of Counties, and also Rick Thompson. Y'all want to come up to the podium?
Other than Sue, somebody else can't do it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. We know that. She's still lost.
Okay. I've been asked to present on behalf of the Texas Association of Counties the Friend of County Government Award. And I appreciate that. It's a real honor because Jim Jackson's a friend and a former colleague and also a new constituent. So, appreciate that. Of course, Jim has his wife Sue here, and I'll tell a little bit. I just want to give a little bit of stuff on Jim before I read the presentation here. But Jim, he likes attorneys so much that both of his kids are attorneys. And that's an inside joke because Jim's not like a attorney. Both of his kids became very successful attorneys, and I know that Jim and Sue have 3 lovely grandchildren, and they spend a lot of time with them, and we appreciate that. Jim served on the Commissioner's Court from 1974, which was the year before I graduated, Jim. 2004. I always harass him about that, but he spent a long time on the Commissioner's Court. He was a key architect to our major capital development fund, which puts us in line in 2021 to be debt-free and the only county in the country that will be debt-free. So we appreciate all his vision and leadership during those years. He's also served 8 years in the legislature. And immediately upon him going to Austin, he assumed positions of leadership because he was the go-to person that came to county government. And anytime that you call anybody at the legislature, they want to know, well, what does Jim Jackson do? So it's nice having your moat on Jim. That always helps. But Jim served not only on the County Affairs Committee, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, but he was also the chairman of the Judiciary and Civil Jurisprudence, which is a very influential committee. And it just shows the respect that you have, not only in this county, but also statewide. And we appreciate all that you've done here. I do want to kind of have a little script here, and I don't want to mess it up for the Association of Counties. But I'm sorry. But Jim, your consistent support of issues important to counties during the 82nd legislative session, including the preservation of local control, proved you a true friend of county government. Thank you for your service on county affairs and your efforts to help counties fight unfunded mandates throughout the legislative process. We greatly appreciate the work you and your staff put into reviewing legislation for county impact and your continued efforts to preserve decision-making authority at the county level. Thank you for your years of service at the state legislature and a long-time Dallas County Commissioner. Thank you for all that you do for counties and our state. Before I present your award, I know that you have some of your staff here. I know Kate Copeland worked for you for all the time that you were commissioner and also on your state. And I think Ryan's here, Beverly's here. But on behalf of the Texas Association of Counties, I want to present you with the Friend of County Government Award. And I'll come down.
Before you make that presentation, he did not talk about the real important. You were on the jail commission. When they were talking about 2 and 3 inches in terms of variances. And he got a sustained, and people don't realize when we talk about that jail, what that does. And by the way, that jail is larger than 80% of the cities in the state of Texas. We have 59,000 people on probation, and if they all violated, we'd have no place to put them. But at the same time, that jail, Jim, we appreciate the power of the jail commission to remediate, to say that they will close us down, and that we would have to take and export our inmates elsewhere. You saved us millions of dollars, 2 to 3 inches difference of those variances. And I think the record needs to reflect that and understand that the power you had and working for counties on that commission.
In other words, what Bishop Price is saying, he's a real hoss. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Maintained throughout this period. Two of the people in the court I had the opportunity to serve with, another I've known for many, many years, and the other two I'm going to get to know better. But we had some good times here. I really appreciate the time I had here. Commissioner, don't tell them I don't like lawyers. I'm still the chair of the Judiciary and Civil Jurisprudence Committee. 14 months ago, and I'm still dealing with lawyers, and we have a bunch of interim issues I've got to deal with, so I do like lawyers.
Just be thankful he didn't tell them what you feel about judges.
I even like judges, it is judiciary. So, anyway, I know you met my wife Sue, and you met remember Kay Copeland, Beverly, and Ryan, who are now my staff, and I know all of you understand that we in public office, we who get elected, are actually just people that show up in time to take credit for all the things our staff does. And so my staff has been wonderful over the years. And I thank you for this time you've allotted to me today, and I thank Paul and Paul Suggs and Greg Thompson who came from TAC, and TAC's a wonderful organization. And so anyway, I stand both humbled and appreciative today. Glad to be back. This is only the second time I'm in this courtroom since I left. I said when I left, I'm not going to be a Monday morning quarterback. You want to hear me say it. This is the way we used to do it. I'll try to do that. Thank you, guys.
When Kay Copeland was here, she bought some real luck. I think she won the lottery, and then she left. And then over in the public defender's office, they put together a pool, and they won the lottery. Like, hell, rings like that.
There you go to the court, and I come over and just like rub your head. Representative Jackson, I know both of your kids, or you may have more, but I know Brad and Leo well, and I know that they got to and Sue, I know people don't grow up to be, folks like that, have integrity, they're, just great people. I know folks don't grow up to be like that without good parents, and so, thanks for that, because they're both my friends, they've been my co-counsel in the past life, and good people. And as far as Monday morning quarterbacking, it's not meddling if we ask for it. So please feel free, clay.jenkins@dallascounty.org. Tell me what I'm doing wrong and what I can do better. Your advice will be appreciated.
He asked for it.
I asked for it. We could do that. Yeah, you're right to do that.
Most of the awards in this building, Mr. Jackson, are from the time you were here. I have noticed that a lot of the awards in this building are from the leadership, so thank you so much. Thank you, Commissioner.
Jim and I would sometimes call the odd couple. And believe it or not, 99% of the time, whether it's anything from redistricting on back, we agree. 99% of the time. But that 1% of the time, we'll point those Republican
It's that 1% of the time that gets Sean to come every. I'll be here.
We're retired
Our next presentation is from me. I can get Beverly, Levy, and anyone from CASA to come forward, please. I've got a presentation, and then we have a video with one pretty representative and one novice person who is not very good in front of the camera. See if you can figure out which one's pretty and which one's a novice. But yeah, you've already figured that one out. But we've got a resolution today for National Adoption Day. And before we
Y'all come on down. Y'all got a lot of people. Come on down.
yeah,
Y'all come forward. Come forward.
I was at an event for CASA not too long ago. It was held over, and this is really, I was telling a lot of us, it struck me what our community do with CASA if we would just do it. This was at the BELO, I think we call it BELO Mansion, it's where the lawyers meet. It was in a large conference room. I've been to several wedding receptions there, so it probably holds 300 people. And Beverly got up and spoke, and she said, everyone in this room, and by the way, it wasn't completely full. There were a few tables that only had, half full, but maybe 300 people, maybe a little less. She would know exactly. She said, everyone here would volunteer at CASA and bring a friend. We would have all the volunteers we need, for the children. And that struck me because that's like 600 people. And we ought to be able to, find 600 people. Hopefully we can find some of those people, in the county. I know it's like anything else, but you get more out of it than you put into it. It's a fixed and it's a finite commitment of your time, but the effect that it has on these kids is exponential and infinite, and it's impossible to tell the good that you do. So for anybody out there who's either listening to this or in the audience, I would really ask that you consider volunteering at CASA. I can think of no better use of your time. But at any rate, or your volunteer time. Let me read this resolution. I'll move for its adoption. Whereas more than 200 abused and neglected children live under the protective care of the Dallas County courts every day. Whereas the courts have determined that these children are not able to return home safely. Whereas hundreds more children are waiting and hoping to find safe, loving homes through adoption. Whereas adoption represents a chance for these children to finally find safe, permanent homes. Whereas Dallas County has a responsibility to keep our children safe. Whereas the goal of National Adoption Day and National Adoption Month is to raise awareness about children waiting to find safe, permanent homes through adoption. And whereas National Adoption Day and National Adoption Month represent a chance for all of us to provide appreciation and recognition for adopted families. Whereas approximately 1,000 children have been adopted in Dallas County on National Adoption Day since the first Dallas observance of National Adoption Day in 2000. Whereas many more children need the love, protection, and permanent family connections forged each year on National Adoption Day. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby proclaim November 19, 2011 as National Adoption Day in Dallas County, Texas, and encourages all of our citizens to consider adoption and support adopted families. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Beverly, please come forward and tell us a few words about National Adoption Day, how that came to be and how that works.
Well, I think that it's a perfect opportunity to talk about National Adoption Day because Commissioner Cantrell actually went out to Los Angeles and saw the very first National Adoption Day and said we have to bring that back. And he and his office coordinated that, and Commissioner Dickey was a strong proponent and supporter of that because she had just finished being, or much earlier, being the head of protective services for the whole state and knew well the issues facing abused and neglected children in care. All of us who work with abused and neglected children, and those of us who are here today, too many to have to come up and introduce, represent the 550 advocates who give a voice to these kids in court. All of us know that every abused and neglected children needs to find a safe, permanent home. And every single one of us hopes that they can go back to their own families and create loving families and safe families for these kids. But that isn't possible. And so a lot of kids can't go home. For those kids who go home, we can't go home. We always hope that they can find a safe home with a new family and want to do everything we can to make sure that they get adopted so they won't spend the rest of their life in foster care. National Adoption Day was a chance to move some of these cases through the court, working cooperatively with everyone involved in the cases. And I will tell you, everybody who works at National Adoption Day gives their time. From the bailiffs to the clerks to the judges to protective services, everyone gives their time on that day in order to make these adoptions possible. And so for kids who just dreamed of first having a safe home and their nightmares finally ending, they will get a dream that they probably never even thought possible, and that's a safe home because of so many people working together. And it is stunning, I think, as well, to stand up, to sit here and listen to the public-private partnerships that are really working in this county. And Commissioner Price, we have to thank you for being such a proponent of public-private partnerships and resolving some of the major issues in this community. I think all of us know that we need to, and can see that we need to keep our kids safe. You only have to read the papers in the last couple of days to know that child abuse is on the rise. I think something like, we even heard yesterday, 49% in the last 10 years. You have to just listen to what's happening in the Paterno case and other cases to know that that probably is the tip of the iceberg, because a lot is not being reported. But for children who we do know about, who are taken out of their homes by government and told it will be better, we have to make sure that that does happen for these children and for all children. And so thank you for this honor and for the recognition of all of the advocates out there working to make sure that every child finds the safe, permanent home they deserve. It's, for us, a stunning opportunity, and we thank Judge Jenkins and Judge Garcia for taking an active role in all of this. I think all of us know that we may not have been part of the darkness of these kids' past, but every single one of you and all of us can be part of that light in the future, and that's what we're hoping for every child in our community. So thank you for your very strong and long-time support, and for all and everything that you can do to make sure that every single child has a voice in the process that's helping them to find the safe, permanent home where they can thrive. So for all of us here today, and for all of the 550 volunteer advocates who are out there working for our kids, thank you very much for your support.
Thank you for giving a face to CASA. And you know, it's interesting. A lot of it, I think probably one of Brian, our budget director, the greatest challenge is every year when it comes down to budget time, whether or not CASA's in or out. And of course, I think he can tell you what the results is. He's got a few scholars here and there. But,
I didn't give him to him.
Yeah, so he earned it. You know, to be a court-appointed special advocate, and I want to thank the judges. You know, we talked about earlier with the DWI task force and all, and the juvenile judges and all. They understand your value, and they also join you in the advocates in terms of making sure that this court, in terms of trying to rank priorities, understand that the children need us as advocates. But thank you for continuing to give leadership, tireless leadership, to the leadership, you know, it makes all the difference in the world. And so I thank all of you for what you do, and thank you for continuing the effort.
So much.
Judge, I just want to make a point. A cost volunteer, when you look at our overall CPS system, you know, you could, a child that's removed from the home could have up to 5 or 10 CPS workers. I mean, they just constantly change. The one constant that child has in their life is a cost volunteer. And that makes all the difference for that child. And Beverly, I appreciate you and the enthusiasm and energy you bring to the equation. And then putting that whole thing together on the adoption day, I know what a problem that is. So thank you, all the other workers for CASA. Thank you all very much. We appreciate what y'all do.
And Beverly, thank you for your steadiness All through these years, we've seen the CASA directors come and go. And when I was for 6.5 years on the board of TPRS, I used to visit every CASA program in Texas. But we always had a steady person who has been here for many years, and that's Beverly. She has provided leadership not only for Dallas, but for the whole state of Texas, and I might add for the country. Beverly, I don't think there's anyone that's been in your position as director, executive director for as long as you've been here.
I'm the oldest.
Well, since you're younger than I am. Anyway, congratulations, and you all, thank you for what you do. And I just want you to know that you got a great leader in Beverly.
Thank you very much, and thank you all. We could not do this without your support. And a special thank you to Maria Rita, I don't know where she is, who made this video. You can see possibly here.
Oh, here she is.
So thank you. We're going to sit down so that you can see this, and thank you very, very much for your constant support.
Thank you and congratulations.
Except to say that we're going to show the PSA, right, Beverly? We've got all of that lined up. So we have two superstars in the room today. I have the wonderful opportunity of coaching, yes, as broadcast talent, and that's Judge Jenkins. He says he's the not well. I just gave it away, and could we not?
There ain't that much coaching in the world.
And Commissioner Garcia, we're going to show you that. And I would urge, and I hope we had such a good time doing this, but the emotion inside of these two people, Commissioner Garcia and Judge Jenkins, really showed that day. We could tell that they really meant what they were talking about. It was really a fun project. And, you know, is it just me, or the indication was incredible, was it? Wasn't it unbelievable?
I thought it was wonderful. In fact, I was going to ask you for a copy.
I already have. I'm ahead of you on that. Yes, and I was hoping we could use it in our tabletop book because, you know, that way we could document it forever. And so what I'm thinking is, so here we have an opportunity for government and actually my peers in the media to come together under one common purpose, which is to help these children. And when you see this PSA, I'm urging members of the media to please talk to your editorial boards and your program directors and your news directors to join with us and do something under this common purpose for these children and air this thing on a 24-hour loop when you can, please.
Every day, nearly 2,000 Dallas County children are living in foster care because it isn't safe for them to go home. These children have to be removed from their homes and are waiting for the courts to decide when or if they will ever return home. Abused children need someone to help them find permanent homes as quickly as possible so they can heal from their abuse.
That's where CASA comes in. CASA volunteers serve as powerful voices in court and in the community. CASA volunteers gather information and make recommendations for judges to decide what's best for a child. A CASA volunteer might be the only friend a child has during this uncertain time. Few volunteer roles have such an impact in the life of a child like that role of a CASA volunteer.
Sadly, Dallas CASA can help less than half the children in the community who need their help. We need volunteers. We need you.
That's right. We especially need bilingual volunteers to stand up for these children.
A child is waiting for your help. Will you become a Dallas CASA volunteer today?
You will make a lifelong difference in the life of a child.
CASA, a voice for all of our children.
CASA, una voz por todos nuestros niños.
Yes, she's 50%.
Thank you very much.
And now comes the least favorite part of my job. You know, I've only been here less than a year. I've been through a broken leg. Few situations in our court where we haven't always seen that out, but nothing is as distasteful as the next presentation. Because today we'll make a a presentation to the county executive of St. Louis County regarding the World Series. And, I do want to call forward those who are here with us who are members of the, food and beverage community, the restaurant community, who have been a part of this wager that I know Siegel's is here. There's Siegel's and I think Off the Bone. I saw Off the Bone. There's also Ruth, Chris, and Mr. Macero. I'm not sure they have representatives here with us today. But hey, I appreciate you. It's no reflection on you that this is a sad day that we're not accepting instead of giving it. But so the time's come to make good on the wager made with Charlie Dooley, the county executive of St. Louis County, Missouri. Charlie, we didn't forget. Mr. Dooley, I made a pact, and St. Louis County promised that if our Texas Rangers won the World Series, they'd send us food staples. And if we lost, we would send them the best of Texas. Since our Texas Rangers will have to wait until next year to capture the World Series, we're going to make good on that agreement as promised and send St. Louis County 2 cases of beer, Shiner Bock and Miller High Life, both brewed here in Texas. We're sending them barbecue from Off the Bone Barbecue, which was my neighborhood barbecue joint for as long as I lived the South Side, and it's a great barbecue. We're sending them Mexican food from Mr. Macero, which opens today. It's our newest Mexican food restaurant here in Dallas. It's the new Mexican food restaurant of Mico Rodriguez, who started Mi Casino Taco Diner, and it's open today. And we're sending steaks from Ruth Chris Steakhouse, which has locations both in St. Louis and here in Dallas. And I remember Ruth Chris because when I was a young man out of college, a grown-up took me there to eat, and it's the first place I ever ate where you ordered your steak and your baked potatoes separately. And I thought, man, this is some high cotton stuff right here. It's crazy expensive steak. And each of those restaurants will be serving or will be sending 4 servings. The beer will be provided by Siegel's Wine and Spirit, and they are here today. And we're honored to have you all as part of this. Now, next year when we win the World Series, I'm going to invite you all back to enjoy the gifts from whatever county executive or county judge is that sends to us for us to enjoy. Anybody have any words to say from our sponsor?
I think they had a Ruth Chris steakhouse in Mayberry.
And we have 2 of our sponsors here today, actually, Ruth's Chris.
Oh, Ruth Chris is
No,
here.
they wish they could be here, but they're sending a certificate instead. And we do have Andy Hubbard. He is with Siegel's. He's here today. I think he wants to say a word. And also Dwight Harvey, a good friend from Off the Bone Barbecue. Yes, you are.
Say a few words.
Stay them again next year, we'll cover your back. I'm Dwight from Cities. We're really glad to be here, and I know it's a sad day for you, but we brought a few things you may can nibble on and kind of take the edge off. It won't be as sad after all. I brought it for the court. You guys enjoy.
Here's something like there. I didn't know it would be appropriate to bring it up. And congratulations, St. Louis County and the Cardinals, the 2012 World Series champions. Okay, so we got that over with. Now we'll consider item 8, our consent agenda. Is there a motion on it? So moved. All those in favor? Well, again, that's what we win. We're gonna up ante. We're gonna double down and get it back. So we'll now consider item 9. Is there a motion motion? So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Those motions carried. We'll now consider orders 10 to 27 and revised date 1. Is there a motion on those orders? So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Oh, you want, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Shelby is voting nay on 11, 19, and 81.
All right. Unanimous on anything but 11, 19, and 81. Commissioner Dupree is voting nay on those three. Okay. I should ask for this discussion on those. I apologize for that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I should ask for that. But please go ahead.
I just want to, for the record, Court Order number 24 is a first club extension for the elevator consultant services. Ms. Brown, I was just today at the Health and Human Services Department, and we know we have been problems with those elevators for quite some time now. When will they be repaired?
A reason for this order this week is because we were waiting for the consultant to provide the specifications to us before we were willing to extend the contract. We do have the $7.5 million that has been set aside in the tax note funds to do these repairs. Staff is looking at those specifications now to plan to phase. There's the HHS building, there's this building, and there's many. The Frank Crowley Courthouse has the most, and the North Tower. So we look to have those specifications on the street right after the first of the year to be able to make those repairs. But the specific issue we ran into yesterday, that was a repair that's needed to be done immediately that will coincide with the final modernization. Those parts were, the funding for that was approved last week, and those parts were ordered. I got notice today that they're looking at making those repairs to that particular unit the week of Thanksgiving.
This year, Thanksgiving.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a deal between Mr. Thompson and I, so. Okay.
The elevators that aren't calibrated, where sometimes we get a big, like ours, yeah, we're self-insured. Obviously, I'm concerned about the safety of the public and our employees, but it seems like it'd be wise to get those calibrated quickly, sooner rather than later, before we end up paying a bunch of con claims when we brace it away on our elevator.
I would encourage anytime you do run into that issue where you see that, to contact our facilities dispatch desk at 6776 so that we can log that. I personally know that I have called on that particular issue, and we've had days where the mechanic has been here trying to see that replicate itself. They did make some repairs, I believe it was about 3 weeks ago, to try to bring that into the calibration that it needs to be. But I would, anytime you have an issue with an elevator, the first thing to do is to contact facilities dispatch 214-653-6776, because that is what initiates getting the mechanics, which are required to be here on site to those locations as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
Well, and I gotta say, Shannon, that Sheriff Valdez and I still have fond memories of 45 minutes that I and her upper staff had stuck on the elevator in the jails. I'm glad we're getting it fixed.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. And on agenda item number 25, I just want to put into the record that I want to thank Judge Snyder, Justice of the Peace, for really moving this item to CJAP. CJAP was instrumental as one of the problems that we identified with the Justice of the Peace courts. I'm very, very delighted to see this move so fast. I look forward to new court case management for the Justice of the Peace. Mr. Martin, Mr. Brown, thank you so much. When we talk about a system that works, with leadership, with organization, and more importantly, with vision, things like this happen. And of course, Commissioner Cantero was, the former chair of CJAP. We couldn't do it without all of us working together. And again, kudos and congratulations to the Justice of the Peace and primarily to Judge Snyder. And of course, couldn't do it without the CJAP team, which is my vice chair, Dr. Noyes, and Ron Stretcher as well. We met together, had a great lunch, and discussed some of these cases, and we're there. So thank you again, colleagues, for supporting us.
Any other discussion? normal session recess for brief discussion. Consider items to be voted on in the subsequent session. Mr. Martin, take the
Well, Judge Commissioners, item 1 is Health and Human Services. 1A, recommend approval of fiscal year 2011-2012 Department of State Services grant funds for the Dallas HIV service delivery area. Service providers listed in package A in the briefing. Item 1B, recommend approval of the award of fiscal year 2011 Rhineland Part 8 Minority Initiative funds to service providers listed in the briefing. Item 1C, recommend approval of the award of fiscal year 2011 Rhineland Part 8 supplemental funds to service providers listed in the briefing. And 1D, recommend approval of the award of fiscal year 2011 Rhineland Part 8 formula funds to service providers listed in the briefing. 1E, recommend approval of Dallas Legal Hospice doing business as Legal Hospice of Texas fiscal year 2011 Brian Wright Part A formula budget revisions.
Let me just say, Mr. Thompson, first of all, continue to do kudos. Yesterday we had a press conference with regards to the Texas Department of Community Affairs having done 85,000 square feet of the largest shelter in the state, that whole retrofitting revitalization. I just want to thank them for that, because we talk about the heat. The heat is coming, the heat in terms of the climate has come and gone. And last year we had some real challenges with that facility. So they worked on that for over a year, and it has come to fruition to the tune of about $400,000. And so I want to thank he and his staff for all they did with regards to that, and we got a chance to kick it off on yesterday. But additionally, when we talk about him and what he does with air conditioning and all, it's kind of continuum. We forget sometimes about the heat, and the heat was a part of that whole package yesterday. When we talk about all this is being done with AIDS, we're coming up on December the 1st, World AIDS Day. We tested more people last year than I think we've ever tested. We do it in conjunction with part of our, not only with the Public Health Advisory, the District 3, but the Dallas County Health and Human Services. The largest population with HIV and AIDS is ages 13 to 24, and that population continues to run. And African American, Latino, and I just want to they talk about the 20th year in terms of all that's happened with Irvin Magic Johnson. I just want to thank Mr. Thompson and his staff. We talk about that whole catchment area. I looked at those contracts yesterday, and we go as far as Denison and Sherman, and we go down as far south as Monroe County. Yeah. About 40 counties. 40 counties. And Dallas County is charged with that. We think primarily the majority is coming here in Dallas County. But I just want to continue to thank him for being on the case, whether it's about weatherization or whether it's HIV/AIDS. I think we do it every year, and then it just kind of, we feel like it goes away. It does not. The federal government is changing the regs with which they're going to deal with these programs. And they're telling communities that you have better deal with this whole educational piece in a different way. He and I have had the occasion to go out to a couple of our provider agencies and talk about that. This is getting ready to change, that population continues to grow. And you talk about 13 years old for AIDS. Think of what it takes for AIDS to become full blown. And when you look at that, that means the child basically contracted AIDS at about age 8 or 9 in order to get to that 13 full blown age. So again, Mr. Thompson, thank you very much for what you do, staff. Okay.
Item 2, appealing to the 2nd District Court, recommends establishment of the Legacy Family Court and allow use of space on 4th floor of George L. Allen City Court Building, the house of program.
Did we talk about, is this right here from Court Center?
Yes.
No, Judge, good morning. One of the things we asked and get, is Dr. Norris here this morning? I don't see him. One of the things we wanted to add, we just asked Dr. Norris, and thank you very much for being. we wanted to make sure that there was some collaboration with CSCD based on this whole legacy family court piece. And if you don't mind, we're going to ask him to kind of collaborate with you. We brought it up during our jail sanitation meeting. One of the things that has really helped us in that whole management piece is that collaboration. And we see some of these same individuals probably peering over maybe into CSCD.
We won't, typically, Judge, we would not be handling anybody who's going to be in the criminal justice system. Most of the cases that we see on these terminations, the parents just haven't made it there. If they were in that system, then we would obviously be working with them or have it go there. We've always worked with the criminal system if there's a termination in place, but instead of foregoing, we're going to forego a termination and put the family in this divert. But one of our overriding principles is to not have someone who has a current criminal action pending. That way there wouldn't be any overlap, if you will. And we see, most of the cases that we see there, that is not the case. There is not that overlap.
Ryan, I know we talked about this.
Right.
And
we'll just make sure that if there's correlation, if there is anything, you're going to have the current to the prior, and if you already get treatment. Plus, we need to tie you into the North Star system as well to ensure if there's any treatment options there.
Well, and that is exactly what we're going to be doing. We have been talking now for over a year with Child Protective Services, with people that are going to be doing assessments, with the council, the Greater Dallas Council on Drug and Alcohol Abuse have been at the table, the DAs have been at the table, the PDs have been at the table. We've got a lot of buy-in from Homeward Bound, Nexus, a lot of the same providers that are used by CSCD, but specifically in a different track. We're a little more warm and fuzzy. We're not trying to keep somebody out of jail. We're actually trying to get a family back together. And as a point of personal privilege, I would like to say that I'm very grateful for what you're doing here today because it is redemption, as Judge Jenkins said. And I'm just tired of terminating kids without fighting them first. And I want to give the kids a fighting chance, and this is the way to do it. And you're enabling that to happen, and I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Judge.
Long distance fist bump.
Anything else? But we'll be working very closely. Thank you, Judge.
There was no room Chris Steakhouse in Mayberry.
It was in Austin.
Item 3, elections. Recommend approval of the election of all objectives for on-site support professional services for the 2012 election cycle for the Beacon of Rancho Pacific and DSS. Item 4, order to that order is on your formal agenda. Item 5, county clerk, recommend approval of the purchase and installation of court information digital displays and monitors for George Allen and Frank Crowley.
And that's going to be electronic, right, Mr. Warren, asking you in the audience to tell people where to go when they're lost at the courthouse. Thank you. I think that's a great idea. We need to get up too.
Quick question on that. There's no way to do it even cheaper with fixed signage because I've seen we're moving things from courtroom to courtroom, right?
You change cases. Item 6, county treasurer requests approval of the annual review of the 2012 county investment policy, brokers and local government investment pools, including dismissing JP Morgan and Texas Capital Bank and adding tax pool prime to the official brokerage list and no changes to the investment policy for 2012. Yes.
Well, no, I was around here. I've been down this road before. I've been here and done that. And that pool thing is giving me some real comfort level. Last time we went down this road, we didn't have any real good luck. And so tell me what's different now, Mr. Wells.
Commissioner, the textile prime recommendation comes from some work we did with RBC Capital Markets. 2008, we interviewed local government investment pools after we got out of commercial paper and interviewed 4 pools with an expert that they came in from Ohio with the county financial advisor. And the recommendation was textile and textile prime at the time. We've been participating with textile for several years since then. I asked this year...
With commercial paper?
Without commercial paper. The difference is textile prime includes some percentage of commercial paper. Today it's 27% commercial paper.
Okay. But that's where we ran into problems.
I understand. And so the difference is through the pool, Federated Investors, which was the reason that the financial advisor recommended tax pool and tax pool prime. Federated manages the investment and manages a credit watch. There's a list of issuers that they know the credit for the issuers that they buy from. And there's an ongoing, it's not just when they're buying the securities, but they're looking every day at any kind of credit risk that could occur. Based on that, we had the expert from Ohio with RBC Capital Markets came to the Financial Review Committee and was point blank asked, was this a safe investment vehicle? And he said, absolutely thought it was. And I'm doing this recommendation as an option. I'm asking to have, if you all approve it, we've been asked by the Budget Office and the Auditor and the Court to look for wherever we can generate revenue. And our interest revenue obviously is down because the rates are down. And so this is a very small, the spread's usually 5 basis points. Today it's only 2 basis points. That's 0.02%. So it's a very small amount of benefit, but and I'm relying on the financial advisor and on Federated in terms of the risk reduction.
Well, and the only reason, the only reason I bring it up, I was on the court before. We were not a commercial paper route, and well, didn't have the result.
On the Financial Review Committee, I noticed that Ron and Gordon did sign. Y'all already.
I wasn't present, but I'm okay.
And Gordon, you're good.
Before I reviewed it, yes.
So that, it shows unanimous on the Financial Advisory Review Committee.
Yeah, see, other than Ron, I don't know, Gordon definitely went around, and I just want to make sure that did the history of the paper come up, the commercial paper, did that come up in the Financial Review? That's the only reason I'm even bringing it up.
Not history, but we did ask questions.
Yeah. Well,
RBC and Dwight seem comfortable.
okay, and I'm okay with it. I'm just saying, we got some history of it. Okay, that's all.
So we don't have that risk.
That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing.
There's always risk. There's nothing out there that's risk-free. But it's a minimal risk, and it's part of a larger pool of funds that you're purchasing. They will get out of the commercial paper hopefully before it goes bad. I mean, that's what they're attempting to do. And so
I guess I would add, they didn't have one of the things that came up at the Financial Review Committee is Federated nor Technical Prime had any issues in the 07-08 period when there were a lot of issues in commercial paper, and that says a lot about their management and their credit watch capability. And that was basically what we cited about.
So what dollar amount are you looking at as far as benefit the county versus?
Yeah, you mean basis point amount?
Well,
I mean, what, you had to put a dollar amount on it.
I can give you an idea that it's very small. Overnight money is around $100 million if I use
around the mark.
$100 million overnight is either repurchase or the pool. Some of that is trust money that we say in tax school, so it would be less than $100 million. If it was $100 million for 365 days a year, which it won't be, and the spread was 5 basis points, which it isn't, that would be $50,000 of interest additional. It'll be 35 or 30,000 maybe. And we'll go with the best rate that night. That's what we generally do.
And this was the only change on the brokers 2012.
Right, we dropped a bank and a broker that were not active, and we didn't add any brokers. We're always open to adding and look at kind of the activity we're getting. We're getting bids on the money that we're investing to make sure we're getting competitive rates.
Thank you.
FA, any FA here? The FA signed, everybody signed off.
I don't think they'll be here.
Okay, I mean, it's okay, they don't need to be, I'm just saying.
They were at the meeting.
Their recommendation.
They recommend, that's excellent.
And the reason that those guys were not active, that bank and that broker were not active, is they weren't competitive on the bids you got.
I think the bank may not have had the demand for the money. The broker, I don't know. It's just occasionally in the 5 years I've been here, there's been a broker that just hasn't been active. When we put out pools of money, we don't get a response. So we drop them and stick with the ones that are active so we have competitive bidding.
periodically we'll add as well. We'll have somebody who expressed an interest in getting in, so we'll add. So you'll see it go up.
Okay, that's it. Okay, I'm fine.
Item 7, IT service, that item was pulled. Item 8, public works. 8A recommends waiving the resale of public jurisdiction policy and attach the closed property struck off to the city of Dallas from the city's purchase of the property listed in the agreement, authorize the purchase price, authorize the city to on behalf of the tax entities. Item 8B, recommends approval of master agreement governing major capital improvement program with the city of Duncanville. 8C, recommends approval of the advanced funding agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation for the Wintergreen Road project. Item 9, purchasing recommends Farm Tech Inc. as the highest rated firm from the RFP for laboratory analysis and drug testing services or urine and blood specimens, and authorize staff to enter the contract negotiations with the firm. Item 10, planning and development, recommends endorsement of the farm trade subzone boundary modification proposed by Dell Corporation.
Did Commissioner Garcia,
Yes, Commissioner Price, I've been briefed about it. It's pretty much just a space, a warehouse, it's a minimum amount of trays on, so no problem. Thank you.
Okay. Item 11, Commissioners for Administration, that photo was on the formal agenda. Item 12, budget. 12A, conference travel training request. 12B, your hiring season sessions in the DA's office, sheriff, and juvenile department. And 12C, that item was pulled. I have one miscellaneous bring up on annual contract for janitorial services at Institute of Forensic Sciences. We need permission to allow us to request missing documentation from DNA Building Services, which was addendum 1. That item was missing from the submission. It will not impact pricing at all. And Judge, Commissioner, that concludes your briefing agenda. You do have 3 speakers listed.
And could the bill please read the rules of forum for the speakers?
All Commissioners, court attendees are hereby advised that this meeting is conducted in accordance with provisions of the Dallas County Code, Section 74-71. Visitors and registered speakers are to preserve order and decorum at all times. Personal, profane, or slanderous remarks are not appropriate and will not be allowed at any time during this public meeting. Any and all applause is to be kept brief in observance of time constraints. Disruptive visitors and/or registered speakers may be removed and are subject to the penalties provided in the State of Texas Penal Code, Sections 38.13, 42.01, and 42.05. Registered individual speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and the maximum discussion on any one topic is limited to 30 minutes.
Our first speaker is Mr. Charles Lingerfeld. Charles, coming forward. You know our rules, so. State your name.
I'm Charles Lingerfeld, 1608 Meadow Lane, Dallas 75253. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here today to remind you that we have been the recipients of the choicest beauties of heaven. We have been preserved these many years in peace and prosperity. We have grown in numbers, wealth, and power as no other nation has ever grown. But we have forgotten God. We have forgotten the gracious hand which preserved us in peace and multiplied and enriched and strengthened us. And we have vainly imagined in the deceitfulness of our hearts that all these blessings were produced by some superior wisdom and virtue of our own. Intoxicated with unbroken success, we have become too self-sufficient to feel the necessity of redeeming and preserving grace, too proud to pray to the God that has made us. So it behooves us then to humble ourselves before the offended power and to confess our national sins and to pray for clemency and forgiveness. Those were the words penned by a man in 1863 whose name was Abraham Lincoln, as he proclaimed a national day of fasting and prayer. And today, America is at an impasse again. While our borders are porous and the enemy forces are deep within our nation and our unity is dissolved. Pseudo and constitutionally illiterate members of both houses of Congress have dishonored our Constitution and Declaration of Independence. Illegal legislation has been passed and crammed down our throats, and balanced budgets are a thing of the past. Uncontrollable spending is a farce in the face of a loving God and His people. Such seemingly uncontrollable impediments always filter down to local government as well. It certainly affects the lifestyle of a free and beautiful people. What an awful mess our nation is in. I call upon you as judge and commissioners with me to bend the knee and bow the heart over the next few days and weeks and pray for America. And if you feel led to fast for this nation, please do so. I will do so with you. We must turn our nation around, or we face the impending doom upon us if we continue down this path. My prayer is, oh God, help us. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Mr. William Hopkins. Mr. Hopkins. Mr. William Hopkins. All right. Not hearing or seeing Mr. Hopkins. Our next speaker is Ms. Linda Bates. Ms. Linda Bates. Ms. Linda Bates. All right. And those two speakers currently are not present. That concludes our public speakers. We'll now reconvene in public session. We'll recess for our closed session as authorized by Chapter 551 of the Government Code to consider items previously posted. Any action as a result of the closed sessions will take place in a subsequent open session.